Peace and welcome to the culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. Folks, we got a live show. A little kinks we had to get out there, but we are on live here on Tuesday, April 23rd. Today we got a fantastic show. First, let's talk a little bit about what's happening with college protests happening all over around the country around the latest issues and developments in that Israel-Gaza war. We'll share with you some of the latest of that. And then we check in with Dr. Cole Williams as we talk about this week's Reclaim Your Wellness, as we have a conversation about why access to nature is a human right and so much more. Folks, stay with us. We got a lot to cover in today's edition of The Culture right here on the Black Star Network. Let's go. Woo! All right, folks, welcome to the culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. It is Tuesday, April the 23rd, and I cannot thank you enough for joining us here today. And of course, as we try to make a little graceful exit, things start to happen. So we apologize about starting a little later than normal, but I'm so happy that many of you are still checking in from around the country. So big shout out to you, Online Culture Crew, for doing what y'all do best, which is support us here on the Black Star Network and here on the culture. I truly, truly appreciate you. Folks, we are streaming right now. You can go to Big Brother Roland Martin's YouTube page and on his Facebook page where we're streaming, and you can definitely check us out. Also, make sure y'all go to our website at blackstarnetwork.com where you can download the app for free. Follow us on social media, and of course, we ask for your support and donations, so make sure y'all do that. And of course, folks, we are streaming live on a number of different platforms, on Amazon News, on your Amazon Fire TV, on Amazon Prime Video. You can check us out there on the Prime Video app under Live TV or News. And we're also on the Freevee Network, where you can find us there on now on the Freevee Network, as well as Plex TV, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Look, we got a lot to talk about. We are going to be joined by our sister. She's an attorney. She is the co-host of the Brokish podcast, our sister Amber Webb Sims. She's going to talk to us a little bit about some of the latest protests that we're seeing popping up all around the country at some of our most prestigious colleges. And these protests are rooted in a larger conflict in Israel and Gaza, and how there are a number of college professors under fire for not taking a harder stance against quote-unquote anti-Semitism on these campuses. And so we want to have a conversation about that. But look, let's take a quick pause. When we come forward, we'll have the discussion with you, with Amber. So stay with us. It's the culture here on the Black Star Network.
Fanbase is pioneering a new era of social media for the creator economy. This next-generation social media app with over 600,000 users is raising $17 million, and now is your chance to invest. For details on how to invest, visit startengine.com/fanbase or scan the QR code. Another way we're giving you the freedom to be you without limits.
Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, welcome to the culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. All right, let's jump right into it, as we got a lot to talk about today. As we check in with our sister, she is an attorney. She is also the co-host of the Brokish podcast, and you find her here. She was doing a phenomenal job being one of our great contributors, giving us some insight about what's happening on the legal side, as well as how important culture has impacted legal decisions. So we are happy to have our sister once again, Amber Webb Sims, joining me. Amber, thank you so much for being with us, putting up with us today.
It bees that way sometimes, but
It
thank
be
you for
that way
having me.
sometimes. But I truly, truly appreciate you. How you feeling this afternoon?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. All right, let's talk a little bit about some of the latest protests and some of the things that are happening at college campuses across this country, where there are a number of students who have taken to the campus grounds and to some parts of the street, right, to protest their disapproval of how the Biden administration has been handling this ongoing conflict in Israel, between Israel and Gaza. And as a result of that, there are a number of major protests that have been orchestrated. And more importantly, there have been high concerns and a lot of uncertainty about how Jewish people are going to be handled, and how they have been dealing with all of this, because a lot of these protests, Amber, are pro-Palestinian. And so there are people all across this country, and we're talking about protests at some of the most prestigious colleges, such as Columbia University. I got word that there were some Black students that were protesting down at Morehouse in Atlanta. So there are a lot of protests happening across this country. First, what's your take of this? And the larger conversation is how college campuses, college presidents are handling these protests as it relates to the legal implications of it, and more importantly, the human rights implications of it as well, in terms of, you know, the ability to have for students to have the freedom to speak about these issues. So how do you see this whole situation play out?
Well, I think it's interesting because what we see here are we see students who are doing what has historically happened at campuses where you would expect there to be a robust marketplace of ideas. You have students putting their education in action, and they are taking to their campuses to hold their administrations accountable for the ways and the extent to which they are complicit with a genocide that's been unfolding right in front of our eyes. And so I think when we look at the first question, which is, you know, what should these campuses be doing? Obviously, colleges should be a place where open discourse is encouraged, where students expressing ideas in peaceful, respectful ways is encouraged. Because not only do we know that that makes a difference, but we've seen the historical impact of it on lives beyond the college campus. Students in the United States were some of the first people here in our country to launch active campaigns against apartheid in the 80s, to encourage colleges and corporations to divest from apartheid South Africa. We saw college campuses being the epicenter of the civil rights movement. You had SNCC, you had coalitions of non-Black students also working with civil rights leaders as well. And so history has largely vindicated students in their activism and in their demands and calls for change. I think what is really disappointing is that the adults who have taught them and empowered them are now trying to silence and criminalize them instead of encouraging them to express their ideas in peaceful, respectful ways. That's what's really sad.
And it's a sad thing, just because I mean, as you mentioned, this is what college is supposed to be about. This is what becoming educated is all about. That once you go through the process of education, there's self-development. But then once you come into an understanding of who you are, where you are, and start to kind of get a better grip on your personal politics and your view of the world, then it becomes imperative. It's a duty and an obligation that you go out into the world, and then you create the change that you want to see in the world as a result of that education. And I know we got to take another quick pause, but I wonder, you know, are we looking, or should we be more concerned about getting back to a place where there is more, I don't want to say more, that the educational process, especially among college students, starts to get dwindled down and watered down, or even restricted in some cases, because campuses are trying to become more politically correct instead of allowing students to speak their piece. So I want to kind of get your take on that and the ongoing issues. And I'm going to share with you, crew, what one Democratic lawmaker has to say about this issue. So we still got a lot to cover, so stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
Fanbase is pioneering a new era of social media for the creator economy. This next generation social media app with over 600,000 users is raising $17 million, and now is your chance to invest. For details on how to invest, visit startengine.com/fanbase or scan the QR code. Another way we're giving you the freedom to be you without limits.
Game on. State of the Union 2024. Huge night for President Joe Biden.
This was a CVS receipts type of night.
He dragged the hell out of the Supreme Court. And he said, y'all gonna see the power of women.
Trump's brain is melting as we speak.
We want to organize from a place of strength. There's no confusion whatsoever about what they've done and what they plan to do.
What Donald Trump is doing is presenting a fallacy.
He is convincing them that he's all in it for them, when in fact he's all in it for himself.
We do not feel Joe Biden, in spite of the success that have taken place during this administration economically. There are too many things where we do not feel like he's had our back.
You should also be investing in the barbershops and the beauty salons and the hookah bars and the folks who are going to the club, and there's a way to actually get them registered because we've done it before. But if you don't have folks who understand that dynamic, then you're missing a big opportunity.
So we said we just celebrated. For what? Why did you go to Selma to celebrate rather than recommit yourself to the fight if the very thing we went to celebrate has been gutted?
Republicans did not support a lot of the bills that were necessary to keep the country fluid. You can't only love your country when you win, right?
Oh, no. You guys don't want another $2 trillion tax cut?
This was absolutely the knockdown, drag out that we were really waiting to see.
Black voters are the base. They're the most important base of the Democratic Party. There was very few language in this speech. At the time, we see an attack on Black history, attack on DEI. The end of the BLM racial reckoning thing has come to a complete end because there was nothing in this speech for that.
Our movement has never been grounded in two-party politics in this country. All of our movements ultimately get co-opted by a state that is anti-Black.
They called the old because they knew the way, and they called the young because they were strong. And I believe there is a good combination of that. But we can have ideas and we can have visions and dreams, but we have to have our young people also working beside us because they are strong and they will run that race and they will run it to the end.
Activists, organizers, and young people have been pushing this administration to be on the right side of history and to do something about the issues that they care about.
While the Ukraine and Palestine are critical issues, they are not the only global issues.
Not a single Black person who should ever let it come out their mouth that I'm tired. Because there is somebody else who came before us who didn't stop fighting.
All right, folks, welcome to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. We've been checking in with my sister, Amber Webb Sims, who's an attorney as well as the co-host of the Brokish podcast. Make sure y'all check her out where all podcasts are streamed. And she has been joining us here on Tuesdays here on The Culture, providing her insight and legal analysis about things that are happening within the culture. So, Amber, once again, thank you so much for joining us. But for today, we're talking about this crop of new protests around the Israel-Gaza war, where there are a number of conversations, a number of demonstrations that are happening at campuses around the country. These aren't small campuses. These are major campuses like at Columbia and other places. Now, the big question is, Amber, It's particularly as it relates to Columbia University, where their president is under some serious, serious fire because students are allowed to engage and demonstrate, be on the campus grounds, speak their piece, show their support in a pro-Palestinian stance. That some people are calling for the Columbia president to resign. What's your take on this? Because we have seen this before. This is how our sister was ousted from in Harvard University. And even the diversity officer there at Harvard was under that pressure. So what are we seeing right now? Should a president have to resign because they allow the students to gather? Now, the one thing is that Jewish American students, Jewish students say that they don't feel safe when these pro-Palestinian demonstrations happen. So that's on that side. But on the other side, do you restrict the freedom of speech of students who want to say their piece about what's going on in the world?
So let me just say this. Imperialism has a playbook and it is faithful. And they use the same plays on marginalized and oppressed people and regarding issues pertaining to marginalized and oppressed people every single time. If you'll recall, when the protests started to happen in 2019, the Black Lives Matter protests, one of the reasons they justified the police coming in and being very violent towards those peaceful protesters was that it endangered people, right? And so I feel like this narrative that these protesters are creating a public safety danger is a talking point that is not based on any facts we've seen. So when we come to the issue of whether this president should resign, I don't think the issue is should she resign because these students are putting their education into action and peacefully protesting and challenging and holding their university accountable. I think the better question is, should she resign because she is encouraging and co-signing the criminalization of students who are using their education to try to create positive, meaningful change in the world? Now, I am certainly not saying that anybody, student or not, should be allowed to create safety issues or to harass or be violent towards anybody. However, if you are going to put that out as a talking point, you need to put out data and evidence that backs that up. Because again, imperialism has a playbook. And the only people who have historically made Jewish people unsafe in this equation are the people peddling the white supremacy that want to shut the protests down. Because remember, when we talk about the creation of the modern state of Israel, we are talking about Jews fleeing Europe. You know, people love to talk about this talking point that Jews need a homeland. The Jews had a homeland. They were home in Europe, where they have been for centuries, contributing, doing positive things, and they were ran out because of anti-Semitic whiteness. And so the fact that we are losing sight of the common enemy to us all, liberation is a group project. And the only people who oppose liberation at every point are people who are invested in upholding the empire.
I love what you just said. Liberation is a group project. I gotta put that on the shirt. I love that. I absolutely love that, Amber. And I agree with you. I agree with you. This is where it gets sticky, and you tell us if this has any merit. The sticky part of it is that can you allow people to speak their piece, to say what they need to say, without endangering or making the other group of people who feel like they're impacted by that speech without making them feel even more threatened, right? Can that line be drawn, especially among a group of young people who are very passionate, who might not always think in every step through? Can that happen?
Absolutely. And so I think that it is incumbent upon the college administrators, to help facilitate that conversation instead of shutting it down. Right. There is room for the expression of multiple viewpoints. And I also want to say that people who support a free Palestine, an autonomous Palestine, that support the right of the Palestinian people to have self-governance, that is not an inherently anti-Semitic position to take. to oppose the state of Israel is not the same thing as having animus towards Jewish people. And I think that instead of the colleges playing into that trope, they have an opportunity to use these protests as a springboard to engage students from both sides of the aisle in these conversations in a way that reveal those issues and that allow both sides to be heard without criminalizing those who support a free Palestine and then labeling them as anti-Semitic because that is their position.
Absolutely, absolutely. Let me go to the crew and hear what folks got to say. And big shout out to y'all, crew, for being a part of the conversation as always. Stephanie Humphrey Channel, good to connect with you once again, sis. You said, I thought about the apartheid protest when I saw this on the news this morning too, Sister Sims. I am unclear what the students protesting, why the student protesting is a problem. Well, it's a problem because, and I'm saying this based upon what I've been reading, Stephanie, that some Jewish students feel like their lives will be in danger or that they feel threatened. And so, and that there are some folks, as Amber said so well, that just because you have a protest against that's pro this, it doesn't mean anti-Jewish, anti-Semitic. That's not the case. But to Amber's point, to your point, Amber, that is often the narrative. And unfortunately, we can't, it's like it's a Herculean task when you have to differentiate that just because I'm against the actions of the Israeli government does not mean that I hate Jewish people.
Absolutely. And I think that, again, you have to realize who is invested in promoting this narrative, because the common thread to both Jews and Palestinians is the settler colonialists and the imperialists backed by the United States of America. The same people who have terrorized Black people, the same people who have terrorized Brown and Middle Eastern people are the same people who terrorized Jews and who forced Jews into the diaspora and who created Israel, not because they were concerned about Jews, but because they were racially motivated to rid Europe of Jews. So instead of dealing with the anti-Semitism on the continent, what they did was they went and they exploited a land that already existed in order to further white supremacist, imperialist, settler colonialist that runs through the oppression of all of us. It's much easier to say, well, we're just going to keep quiet about that by labeling anybody who recognizes the right of the Palestinian people to be free and autonomous as anti-Semitic. And it's much easier to do that and keep us from recognizing the common enemy to us all than it is to really have an open and honest conversation about how we got here.
Absolutely, absolutely. Let me take another quick pause. But Real Brooklyn, you said something that I truly, truly appreciate you saying, brother. You said there is one thing about protesting. By protesting, we alter the agenda and start a debate. Amen. And that's a Real Brooklyn. That is essentially what some protesting is all about. It's not to create the policy, but it is to alter the agenda and start a debate. It's to show that people are not happy with some particular policy, but some particular direction. Alter the agenda, start the debate. Look, we got to take another quick pause. When we come forward, let's continue the conversation with our sister Amber Webb Sims and you. Stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
I need you to scream for your new beginning. 5, 4, 3, 2. I need you to shout for it. I need you to shout for it. It won't always be like this. Sooner or later, it's gonna work in your brother's favor, in your sister's favor. They shall not die. They shall not die. They shall not die. I want you to embrace somebody and tell them welcome to the greatest season
Fanbase is pioneering a new era of social media for the creator economy. This next generation social media app with over 600,000 users is raising $17 million, and now is your chance to invest. For details on how to invest, visit startengine.com/fanbase or scan the QR code. Another way we're giving you the freedom to be you without limits.
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad, joined by my sister, Amber Webb-Sims, attorney and podcast host. She serves as the co-host for the Brokish podcast, and make sure y'all check her out wherever podcasts are streamed. And we're talking about protests at Columbia. We're talking about this group of this new wave of demonstrations that are happening at college campuses all across this country right now. Over the past few days as well, we're seeing a number of college students at prestigious universities like Columbia University and Morehouse and other spaces who are going to the grounds of the college campuses, who are going to the streets outside of the college campuses to protest their disapproval and to show their support. A lot of these are pro-Palestinian protests that students have organized. And as a result of that, university presidents are in the hot seat, such as the university president for Columbia University. I mean, in the hot seat, to say the least, where some people, and this is the case at Columbia, where there have been some letters that have been written about the Columbia University president and asking her to step down as a result of her support of but allowing the students to speak their truth. And this is very, very interesting. We have seen this type of, this type of pressure before, but this is very, very interesting. I want to share with you what one Democratic lawmaker had to say about this situation. Let's just post this quote, please, as he
Fanbase is pioneering a new era of social media for the creator economy. This next generation social media app with over 600,000 users is raising $17 million, and now is your chance to invest. For details on how to invest, visit startengine.com/fanbase or scan the QR code. Another way we're giving you the freedom to be you without limits.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is RolandSMartin.com.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
There's an angry
pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol.
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys. This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
When you go into a barbershop in a 700 credit score neighborhood, black or white, they're talking about their ideas and they're talking about how they're going to move on those things. You go to a barbershop at a 500 credit score, equal brilliance, but bad culture, they're talking about other people. You go to a winner's barbershop, here's what I'm doing. You go to the barbershop of where people feel defeated, they talk about other people, either celebrities or people they admire, but also often, I don't like Joe. I don't like Roland Martin. Well, let me tell you something. I don't understand people. How could you not like anything here you see? You should just be like, this is amazing. It's cool. You may not even like how he does it or how I do it, but it's like, you know what? They're succeeding. They're killing it. All you should be is, that's fantastic. But if I don't like me, I'm not gonna like you. If I don't feel good about me, it's hard for me to feel good about you. If I don't respect me, don't expect me to respect you. If I don't love me, I don't have a clue how to love you. And here's the big one. If I don't have a purpose in my life, I'm gonna make your life a living hell.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, you're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
All right, folks. Let me bring my sister Amber Webster back into it. I can't win today, Amber. I cannot win.
That means you must be the devil is busy because you're trying to tell the truth.
I can't win today.
That's
I
okay.
apologize, crew. I apologize because stuff is happening. I can't jump in. I can't be in the technology and stuff that's happening around us. But we're gonna get through it. We're gonna get through it. You know.
Amen.
But look, I know that time is of the essence, but I wanted to kind of get your take on very quickly what one Democratic lawmaker had to say about this, because he posted this. Well, he said this in a CNN interview, and let's put up this quote very quickly as we kind of wrap up. He said, this is from Representative Josh Gottheimer of New Jersey. He said that President Minosh Shafik, who serves as the university president for Columbia, said should do more regarding the protests at the school. Then he posed this. He said, the question for all of these presidents is, will they step up to the moment and do the right thing? And that's what we should expect from them, to act and not just talk, not just for words, but actually for action. and to make all students feel safe. And I want to kind of get your take on this, Amber, because this whole thing, as you spoke about earlier, is around the narrative that Jewish students are not safe. And I think that's interesting because a lot of these students that are involved in these protests, you talk about Black students, Latino students, you talk about some white students. These are communities that have often been marginalized, have been left vulnerable, and have been left unsafe. So I'm wondering what this Democratic lawmaker is really saying, that in this particular case, I don't think anybody wants to attack Jewish students just because. Now, there might be some very fringe individuals of these groups that may have that warped view. But I think for a lot of these students, they're like, when do we feel safe? Especially Arab students, Palestinians, when do they feel safe? So can you speak to that?
Absolutely. Again, that's a talking point that is not based in fact. I want to make it very clear that the protests that are happening right now at Columbia, at NYU, at Berkeley, these are protests in support of an autonomous Palestinian state and protests against the state of Israel, and protests that are asking colleges and universities to divest from weapons manufacturers and arms companies that are profiting off of this war. This is not a protest against Jewish people or a protest against anybody who believes that Jewish people have a right to exist freely, fully, and safely here in the United States and in a Jewish homeland. So that's not what this is about. So I want to be very clear. And I also want to be clear and state that there has not been one single instance of violence against a Jewish person propagated by any student affiliated with these protests. So to the representative from New Jersey, what I would say is, if this is about presidents standing up and doing the right thing, what is the right thing? Is the right thing to criminalize students who are asking questions that deserve an answer? Or is the right thing to slander those students by accusing them of doing things that they haven't done and taking positions that they haven't taken for political expediency because Joe Biden is afraid he's going to get his ass handed to him in this election because he's on the wrong side of history?
Wow. Amber, very quickly, I know we got to take a quick pause and wrap up this part of the discussion. And I'm so grateful, and I'm more than grateful to have you been part of this this whole process, serving as a contributor. But how do university presidents prepare themselves for that? Because now, not just, and I'm looking at some of the latest feeds coming from CNN, there are a number of presidents. We're talking about Columbia, but Harvard is back into the conversation. Looking at, they said the University of Minnesota's Twin City campuses, 9 arrested there after pro-Palestinian. Barnard president addresses student suspension, underscores importance of exposure to uncomfortable ideas. So you're talking about major institutions. How should these presidents move forward? And more importantly, do they have any legal standing? Is there any particular law that they can lean on to ensure that they're doing the right thing?
Well, I think the right thing to do is for these presidents and these colleges to engage these students and be willing to have a conversation about what they're asking for. In terms of the legality, for a lot of these campuses, particularly your campuses like your Columbias, your Harvards, they are private campuses. So they are private property. And the landowners, which are the universities, they have the right to seek police assistance, to have these students evicted, to have them criminally trespassed. So legally, they are able to do what they are doing. But again, if the question is what should they be doing, I think it's very clear that they should be applauding these students for their courage, for their bravery, and finding peaceful and productive ways to engage with them about what their concerns are.
Absolutely. My sister, Amber Webb-Sims, you know what? I wish we could have connected much sooner in the process.
Agreed.
You're absolutely dope as, well, you know, dope. But I am grateful that we did cross paths and that we were able to work together over these past few weeks. And so I am eternally grateful for your insight, and trust and believe we will be crossing paths again very, very soon. But I thank you so much for all of you that you brought to the conversation here on The Culture. Talk to people how they can check you out, because you got a lot to say.
Yeah, you can, as Farajii told you, you can find me at Brokish Podcast or on Instagram at Amber W. Sims. So we release episodes on payday on the 1st and 15th of every month. So yeah, you can find us anywhere you listen to podcasts. So thank you, Farajii, and congratulations on your new chapter.
I appreciate you, Amber. Thank you so much for being with us, and I thank you so much for the great sentiments. My sister, Amber Webb Sims, make sure y'all follow her on all social media platforms, and more importantly, check her out on the Brokish Podcast. And then she has been providing some great legal analysis here on The Culture. Thank you so much, Amber, for being so good for The Culture.
Thank you.
All right, folks, we got to take a quick pause. When we come forward, let's check in with Dr. Bridget for this week's Reclaim Your Wellness. Stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. This is an opportunity for us to be able to speak to our issues. Y'all better understand something real quick. We ain't going nowhere. It is a continual battle that we see all across this country. Revolution will not be televised. The revolution will be streamed.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
He makes sure that our stories are told.
Roland Martin's doing this every day.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
Fanbase is pioneering a new era of social media for the creator economy. This next generation social media app with over 600,000 users is raising $17 million, and now is your chance to invest. For details on how to invest, visit startengine.com/fanbase or scan the QR code. Another way we're giving you the freedom to be you without limits.
You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. You have the right to an attorney, and if you cannot afford an attorney, one will be appointed for you.
All right, folks, welcome to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Man, fantastic first hour conversation. So I truly appreciate Amber Webb Sims for checking in, being a part of the discussion, and more importantly, giving us some very, very just dope legal analysis on these issues. And again, folks, make sure y'all check out my sister on the Brokish Podcast, wherever podcasts are streaming, because she has a lot to say. And she, as you can hear, she's so good for the culture. All right, let's now switch gears from talking about legal and political issues to now talking about our health and wellness. We weren't on yesterday, but how can I stop this woman from joining us today for our final week? So we're happy to have our sister, Dr. Bridget, checking back in for this week's Reclaim Your Wellness. Doc.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
It's Tuesday, so I have to remember that.
Technically, yes.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Technically, yes. Well, Doc, I truly appreciate you for readjusting your schedule to be with us on Tuesday instead of Monday.
Yes.
And I thank you so much for doing that. You got some great stuff that you wanted to talk to us about. What you got on the agenda here?
Absolutely. So starting out, I thought that this was a really interesting article that came up about Earth Day. So if you're not aware, Earth Day was yesterday, and it really talked about the disparities of access to parks and green space, particularly for Black children. And that actually, because of the way discriminatory housing and land allocation, that 68% of Blacks have a deficient amount of green space available to them versus 23% of white Americans. And it says a lot, not just about access to parks or slides or trees, but there's definitely a mental and an emotional mental health component that rides into this over time.
Now, this is very interesting. I remember years ago, I studied some information, some data from Johns Hopkins University. So I was still in Baltimore at the time. Mm-hmm. And they had done a study that they found that Black neighborhoods in Baltimore City were, I think, like at least 10 or 15 degrees hotter than any other parts of the city. Mm-hmm. And it's particularly where white residents live. And it talked about how that changes the mood, that changes the quality of life in the city, and had all of these like public health issues, right? And this was the first time, Doctor, that I really kind of it helped bridge the gap between what we call environmental justice, where you're looking at how does nature could be weaponized. And this is sad because I don't think Mother Nature is not like this at all. Mm-hmm. But I think that the country and the systems that we're a part of, it weaponizes the natural resources, right? To the point where it's like, oh, well, if you live in a more wealthier, affluent neighborhood, or as we have been seeing in these studies, white neighborhoods, you're going to get lush green grass. You're going to get trees that have bigger bushes and shade. There's going to be a better quality of life. Life is going to be essentially cooler. Mm-hmm. Then you go into the Black neighborhoods where they build our stuff, and it's like sun is beaming. We have long distances to walk to stores and all of these things. And it's like, it finally hit me that like, wow, how can nature be weaponized? But you're seeing it like in this particular study that you're referencing. Mm-hmm. It happens every day in this country. So I just wanted to bring that up because I think it's fascinating.
Well, I mean, the fact that I think a few weeks back, I even brought up a study where they had mice, one that had healthy food, where they had tons of space, and their behavior and interaction was much more calm and peaceful and easier, where they took other mice, same type of mice with less nutrient food and more crowding, and there was more infighting, there was more attacks, more fighting amongst the other mice. And then you took those same mice and switched places, and it started all over again. The ones that had the issues seemed to like level out. The ones that were doing fine before, now we're fighting, right? And the fact of the matter is, you put humans in a place where they are basically just living by survival, right? And then there's this whole concept of the survival mentality, even taken into account that if you're in the city, you tell people, look, you have to watch your back, you have to stay aware, you have to be vigilant. Where if you're out in the country someplace, there's nothing there to be, I don't know, a deer might come up on, I don't know, right?
Right.
But your nervous system is different, right? That you're more aware and more triggered in a city environment where you hear sirens going off and what have you, versus in the country where you really don't hear anything else. And you have a calmer, you're more in your parasympathetic space, which is soothing to your body, right? And your mental. And so there is a big difference. Now, people make choices, obviously, where they live. Some people really don't have a lot of choices, whether they're choosing city or country, right? But the fact of the matter is, if you put people with lack of nutrient food, lack of trees, grass, or just a place for children to play, and even in schools, they're doing less and less of the free time and recess time. And so there's less of an opportunity for just free play and relaxation. It's almost like we are unaware of how important these aspects are.
And I think that's the big part of it. That is a huge part of it, especially when it comes to our children's growth and development. I want to just throw this. Let's put the first quote up very quickly before we take our next pause. But this comes from an op-ed piece that was featured in the Griot. It was written by Josiah Bates. And Josiah was talking about just what you're talking about. Earth Day was yesterday. And he made this point. In Black neighborhoods, parks are half the size of parks in white neighborhoods and nearly 5 times as crowded. As nations recognize Earth Day, an event meant to promote protecting and sustaining the planet while enjoying nature responsibly, it's apparent that Black children lack equal access and freedom to experience nature regularly.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
I mean, it's like, damn, now we're seeing a war being waged on the playground for our children to gain access to just the simple thing of life, which is access to Mother Nature herself.
Right. And then if you're going to the park and it's overcrowded, that's not any better. You know, that
let's put out there as well, Doc. You go to the park, not only if it's overcrowded, if the park itself is in a dilapidated condition, like the equipment is old, the ground is rocky, there are no trees, there are no flowers, and you got children. Right now, children don't care; they just get to play. But I mean, I remember growing up in a park. I had rocks as the ground. We were slide. I don't know if y'all remember them steel poles you slide down. They hot and dangerous.
That's
the sliding board, steel. You just slide down smooth steel, hot and dangerous. It was fun back then, but when you look at it now, you're like, damn, this is really something else.
No, it is a problem. And with it being overcrowded, without having opportunities to really be, just free to be in your space and what have you, it not only does it have a problem for children, but this affects adults as well. Just being able to have green space. And we should make more of an effort to do this. Part of the article talked about in New York that this one family had to drive 30 minutes just to find a park. And if that is your reality, if you don't have the opportunity to really enjoy nature, first of all, you won't appreciate it. And your idea of having a day off is being at the mall, more concrete, more, steel and sterile environment. There is something to be said about fresh air and to be in a space that is calming. And so we have to either make that effort. The article talks about kaboom.org, which is an organization that goes to put parks in inner city neighborhoods. Yeah. And so if this is something that you feel should be addressed in your neighborhood, definitely reach out to them because that is a part of what they do. But it's important that we find spaces for children to feel safe as well as experience nature.
Look, man, I feel you. Look, we got to take another quick pause. When we come forward, we'll continue the conversation with Dr. Bridget here as we talk about why access to nature is a human right. Crew, I want to get your take on this as we look at some of the latest studies around the fact that Black children have to travel long distances, so they may not have access to good parks to give them the space and, of course, to have the access to nature as they should. What are your thoughts about this? Post your comments in the chat as we're streaming on Big Brother Roland Martin's Facebook page as well as his YouTube channel. And of course, stay tuned. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
Fanbase is pioneering a new era of social media for the creator economy. This next generation social media app with over 600,000 users is raising $17 million, and now is your chance to invest. For details on how to invest, visit startengine.com/fanbase or scan the QR code. Another way we're giving you the freedom to be you without limits.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. This is an opportunity for us to be able to speak to our issues. Y'all better understand something real quick. We ain't going nowhere. It is a continual battle that we see all across this country. Revolution will not be televised. The revolution will be streamed.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
He makes sure that our stories are told.
Roland Martin's doing this every day.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
All right, folks, welcome to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. Joined by my sister, Dr. Bridget, for the final Reclaim Your Wellness.
It's too much. It's too much for me.
Too much.
It's too much. You already know that.
But we're still having a fantastic conversation as we're talking about access to nature for Black children. As we're finding out, and this is based upon the fact that yesterday was Earth Day, folks. So yesterday was Earth Day, and it is the perfect time for us to have discussions about environmental justice issues and how they, unfortunately, this is not Mother Nature's fault. This is the system of capitalism. This is the system of racism that continues to be an influence in this country. When it comes to allowing our children to have access, the proper access to nature, so that they can grow and develop in a full and enriching way. And this is very interesting. Just the simple fact of having green spaces and a shady playgrounds makes a world of difference for a child's growth and development. And Doc, from your vantage point as a family physician, what do you tell families that live, quote unquote, in the hood? They don't have that access. They can't drive 30 minutes to the next green space. You know, they got to play outside wherever the space they find. Now, this ain't like the 90s where we had them big, huge, y'all remember the big project buildings, big tenement, like some of us grew up in? Those places are gone. They have been knocked down and destroyed. But we're still finding in particularly low-income Black neighborhoods across this country where Black children are forced to play outside, just outside of our doors. And if they go to a park, the park is not in the best condition. So what do you say as a family physician, Doc, to those families to help them to gain access to nature?
Well, first of all, when I was growing up, we had the neighborhood mobile pool, like swimming pool. It came on a humongous flatbed truck, and it was in different areas all around the city at different times. You knew the schedule, and you knew when they were going to be in your neighborhood. They definitely don't do that anymore. So, but you can't wait for everything to come to you. My suggestion is, allow some time for your children to have some of these experiences. Ideally, it's best if you can have those experiences with them. But there are so many great organizations across the United States that want to have your child having experiences in nature, in fishing, and all sorts of things. And it's not Cub Scouts or Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts. You might have your opinion about that. They're literally just there to have great experiences and so that your children can breathe and you can be a part of it. Inner City Outdoors is one that's in Illinois. Sierra Club is, I think, in DC as well as on the West Coast. The Experience, Big City Mountaineers, Outdoor Alliances for Kids. There are a number of organizations that want to do this work so that your children have more diverse experiences. And the more you know outside of your little bubble when you're a child, the more you will you'll do better in life. You'll aspire for more because you'll see more and know that there's more out there to have. So definitely sign up for some of these possibilities and see if it's something where you can donate some of your time as well to be a part of it. But overall, I would say to be able to give your child the opportunity to relax in nature, and you don't have to, pick a tent and, live off of grubs. outside. It doesn't, and you don't have to glam, camp either. You can really just have an opportunity to walk through nature and breathe a little bit and ride your bikes and, down some trails and just have an opportunity to see the world without that human, influence, just as it should be. It's really a nice experience.
It's a beautiful experience. And I'm loving the comments we're getting from the crew, because so many of them are like, hey, y'all need to, if you're not making an effort to take your children to the park, something is inherently wrong. And let me tell you, the park is my go-to. When I don't feel like spending money, because my children always will ask for something.
Right.
Come on, Doc.
Always.
I'm always asking for something.
Yes.
Yesterday we went, went to the game, to the Angels game, and it's like my son, as soon as he stepped foot on to the stadium, Dad, can I buy a hat?
Nope.
Can I get a sweatshirt?
No.
Looked at it, a hoodie, $104. No, sir, you're not getting that today, buddy.
Nope.
Come on, Dad, I really like it. We're gonna buy that from Amazon.
You don't need any of it. You know what? You're right. You go to the park, guess what? Everything is free. And look, don't even buy the little duck feeding. No, you bring something from home. You know what I mean?
You know what I was saying? Like, there are two things, and this is the beauty about LA. There are two things, three places. You can go to the regular park, you can go to a hiking park, or take them little jokers to the beach.
There you go. There it is.
That's it.
The only thing you spent was your gas money.
That's it. That's it. That's the beauty. That's the beauty. Let me go to what the crew is saying on this, Doc. Anastasia, my sister, you said peace and love, everyone in the chat. I have my TV on cooking dinner. I hear that. What you cooking, Anastasia? What you cooking?
I know.
Each city should have a 4-H club and forest service. They all need volunteers. Girl Scouts and boys clubs give you the opportunity to be or party. Yeah. They can drive to a green space. This should be a priority over turning up.
Ouch. Ouch. It should be. I agree. I agree.
It should be. Our next pause on this, Doc. In terms of what age, and I've seen parents take children to the park as very small babies, all the way up, of course, until they get older. Mm-hmm. But is there any type of age health issues that we should take note of? Because some parents may be listening today and say, you know what, okay, let me take my child. But then I see those same parents sometimes get ostracized, and they've been told you should not expose your baby to these elements and all of those things. So how do you make sure that you kind of keep that in a righteous balance, so that way a mother or a father, a new parent, doesn't feel like, they're endangering the health of their small ones?
Absolutely. So, during that first month that the child's born, you really shouldn't just be out and about and having them exposed to not just everything, but everyone. You should be very careful and probably have some limits on that even during the first 3 months. But it is nice to put the child in the stroller and just walk around the park. Everyone doesn't need to touch your baby. You know what I mean? And you do want to keep up with immunizations, having your child out there in the world, because we were looking at earlier, measles is on the uprise. And so you want to make sure that your child is getting that measles shot. It's somewhere between 12 months and 18 months, but you don't want to put them in harm's way either. But, when a lot of moms get cooped up and overwhelmed right after having the baby, you can put the baby in the stroller and go for a walk. You can put the bassinet hood over the baby. She's, he or she'll be sleeping anyhow, hopefully. And you get a chance to get a little bit of fresh air and a walk in. It's good for you too.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I as we take another pause, it has to be a culture. It has to be a value. In the West Coast, it's everything. If you're not a nature lover, you get kind of like ostracized a little bit. You get kind of like, oh, you don't like being out in the park? You don't like hiking? Because it's the value of this part of the culture in this part of the country. But you might be and I'm not saying you particularly, but I'm saying if someone watching, they say, that's not a value. That's not a value from within my family to be out in nature. That's not a value in my community. Something. But would you encourage people to make it a value, to start instituting that into the livelihoods of themselves and their people around them?
I mean, you should value clean air to the best of your ability, right? And there are different types of parks. Like, I don't want to get, I don't want that either. So but I like being out in nature. There's a park for you. I don't care what your hang up is. There's a park for you.
There it is right there. Folks, we got to take another pause. When we come forward, let's continue to talk to Dr. Bridget. Let's talk to her about emotional benefits of friendship and how it differs from Black people versus white people, and how you can understand and see the difference, and more importantly, how you can benefit from the difference. Folks, stay with us. That conversation is up next here on The Culture on the Black Star Network.
With over 600,000 users, is raising $17 million, and now is your chance to invest. For details on how to invest, visit startengine.com/fanbase or scan the QR code. Another way we're giving you the freedom to be you without limits.
All right, folks, welcome to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad, joined by our sister, Dr. Bridget Cole-Williams, who is the one that we focus on for our health segment, Reclaim Your Wellness. And Dr. Bridget has been on a phenomenal job over the past over the year now, giving us some of the insights and the tools and things we need to think about to improve our health and wellness. And this is one of those conversations, Doc, when you're talking about friendships and emotional benefits and those type of relationships. Now, you have, along with talking about some of the health stuff of, diseases and all of those type of things, you also do on your podcast that you do on Instagram, you talk about healthy relationships.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that, because when I tune in, I can say, oh man, okay, I never thought about that. Never thought about this. So talk to us a little bit about emotional benefits and how they differ from Black people versus white people.
Absolutely. So this is coming from some research out of University of Michigan, and it was printed in the Journal of the Gerontological Society of America. And it's about that Black Americans versus white Americans receive different benefits from their friends, family, and other relationships. And so what they found is that white America receives more of a positive boost in their mood with their interactions with their friends, whereas Black Americans actually get that boost more from family, church associates and friends, and other personal community. So there's a difference in what fuels our mood as being Black and white, but it also has a lot to do with age. So they found that Black Americans that were under 40 still had that bond with friendship more than Black Americans that were over 40.
This is interesting.
I thought so too. Yeah.
This is very, you know how I'm the social scientist guy. So, I find this to be very, very interesting. So there are some differences. Let me go back to what you just said.
Mm-hmm.
You're talking about Black people and our friendships. We get a boost from who again? From family or from our friends?
So Black Americans get more of a boost from family, from church and other personal communities, where white America got more of a boost from their friend groups. And it's not that we don't get that boost from our friends, but it's much more a momentary, quick experience where for white America, the friends, and I think it just has something to do also just with our socialization, our priorities, and it has something to do with our age as well. Of course, when you're younger, friends are incredibly important, but it seems that that feeling continues in white America, whereas Black Americans get older, we get that fuel from seeing extended family, our spouses, other family members, like being able to connect with our community in that sense meant more than connecting with our friends.
So what does that say about Black folks in this country? Like, what do we need to improve on how we make friends, or more importantly, do we need to kind of reevaluate the friendships, the relationships that we have to determine whether these are working for us? Because, you know, we're in that culture right now when people, and I was reading an article about this, and we're like hypersensitive at this point. I think, I'm using this term, I think we're a little hypersensitive about people not being in our energy field. You know that talk. Everybody's like, no, you're toxic, you're a narcissist. You know, this is not good energy for me. And it's like, I understand that personally. I get it. But then at the same time, are we like setting ourselves up for failure? Because now it seems like people have resolved to themselves that they rather be by themselves than to be with any group of people, because that new person in their life might bring some negative energy. So I'm trying to figure out, like, where's the balance in all of this?
Okay, I don't know if I see it exactly the same way. So I'm all about, if you toxic, I don't have time for you. So I'm in that camp. Okay.
I got you.
But I think friendships are a modifiable social resource. If I choose to be more social, I can make more friends. If I choose not to be as social, then I don't have as many. And where family is family. And I feel like there's I read it as Black people have a greater appreciation for family, and that we're more connected to family and community, as opposed to white America is more, they're not as connected to their family, and their friends have greater importance. The way that I looked at it. I mean, if I wanted to be more social, I could do that. But if you're telling me I can see my Aunt Maxine in Alabama, I want to
you out the door. You on a plane.
You see what I'm saying? That's what I prefer to do.
Right.
So I think it says something about, as we evolve and grow as adults, that we start to appreciate the safety of our family, and how that relationship, that those generations that come together, and you want that experience. Now, don't get me wrong, there are some friends that are family, and you can't tell people any different, right?
Right.
So I include them in that. But we're talking about the significance of friends, which as Black Americans get older, they start to go back to family, church, which is very much a family, right? And it says other personal communities, which I think for some people may be fraternal organizations or what have you, for some, okay, not all. And then I think white Americans try to find the people that best reflect them. And so, you know, your family doesn't necessarily reflect you entirely, right? Different socioeconomics, different areas of the country, you know, they try to find people that reflect them the best. Right. And so, because what is more comfortable than people that are exactly like you in every way?
Right. So here's the thing, though. I'm going to throw this out there. As much, and this is why I think this is interesting for us to talk about. We see that is a study of Black folks, right? But it's also interesting because many Black folks will say, I didn't say many, I can't quantify it, but the ones that I've come across say that their families are just as toxic, saying that their families are in some cases the sources of the trauma.
Sometimes this is true as well. This is true.
Right.
So I think at the end of the day, if family is something that is positive and supportive for you, that's where you're going to gravitate to. And maybe for Black America, it's worth investing in more than toxic friends. I rather, the toxicity I know versus the toxicity I don't know. Maybe you see what I'm saying. The fact of the matter is,
that's deep.
You know what I mean? I mean,
yeah, I get it. I get it. You have familiar toxicity.
I know, I know when, I know exactly what my cousin's going to say. I know how he's going to say it.
But here's the thing though, Doc, check this out. I mean, that's comfortable when you do know, like you're saying, when you do know that what type of toxicity, but it doesn't necessarily lead to growth. Like, I think that's the whole purpose of relationships, right? Mm-hmm. Relationships are these connections that should lead to some level of growth because of life, because life be lifing, and because of the choices that we make and how we choose to be in that space with somebody, that relationships should grow, right? And again, I'm going back to the point that families will sometimes keep you into a time warp. They might call you as a grown man. They'd be like, look a little Winky. And you ain't been called Winky in 30 years. Winky, has died. This new man has grown. He went to college. He's in his profession. But when you come around a family, you still a little Winky.
See, there are two sides of that, though, right? Because there is the aspect of they're not seeing me as the new adult that I've become. And there's also the side that where they're loving you like they have always loved you. And yeah, they're still calling you, baby and, what have you. And it depends on what your interpretation, and there may be actually great comfort in that, right? So it just depends on what your experiences are with those people. But the one thing I will say is that one thing we find, whether Black or white, that men, as they get older, have fewer friends.
That's real.
And that is not only it's a fact, but it's also a problem because women tend to continue to socialize. Men do, develop families, they go to work, and they start to pull back from all of their friends, for that matter. A lot of it has to do with just more responsibility, but it's also looked at as being socially lazy. But I can't tell you how many middle-aged women come to me and say, I am my husband's only friend.
Oh, no.
And the pressure of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, yeah, I do think that we need to kind of put ourselves out there a little bit. You can develop friends over 40, and you have to be willing to have new experiences.
That is so true. Let me tell you something. I come across dads all the time, like, and it's when I go to like school functions for my son, right? Hey, Doc, it'd be the most awkward conversations between dads. We just stand there and be like, yeah. Like, you know what I mean? Trying to find something to talk about. And it's like, we want to talk to each other. We do really want to. And it's just like, it's just like a curb your enthusiasm, awkward moment. You know what I mean? You're just sitting there like, yeah, our children are growing.
Let me just say, I have that problem as well. Like, I feel like, particularly with what I do, I don't want to talk to y'all about that. You know what I'm saying?
See, that's Doc. That's the point.
Right? I don't want to talk about that.
Talk about that. They be like, well, what do you do? And it's like, I do media. Oh, what kind of media? And then they got to go to this explanation and all that. It's like, I don't want to talk about that if I'm at the park. I want to eat a burger.
Right. No, you know what? Go to functions with 3 talking points. It might be, so men always have the incredible benefit of talking about sports. You guys it's a gift. It is a gift. You can always talk about sports, right? But go into these functions with 3 talking points. And I'm saying this for myself too, because the next time I'm at the volleyball game, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say.
Are you like that mom when they be like, hey, you just like, hey, you got your cap on, hey. That's you. That's
I wasn't always that mom. I wasn't always that mom, but somehow I ended up being that. I don't know what happened. But now I'm like, but 3 talking points, whatever that may be.
All right, look, let's take a quick pause. When we come forward, I want to hear what those talking points are. Crew, talk to me. Y'all got a problem building friendships and benefiting from the emotional connection of your friendship? Post your comments, share your thoughts as we're streaming live on Big Brother Roland Martin's Facebook page and his YouTube channel. I would love to hear what you have to say. Karen, you said right, Farajii. Yeah, it's awkward as hell when you got like 4 dads in the room and we're trying to figure it all out. We're talking about everything from strollers to like shoe sizes or something. I don't know. We just just stand there. Look, we want to continue the conversation on the other side with Dr. Bridget and of course with you. Stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
Fanbase is pioneering a new era of social media for the creator economy. This next generation social media app with over 600,000 users is raising $17 million, and now is your chance to invest. For details on how to invest, visit startengine.com/fanbase or scan the QR code. Another way we're giving you the freedom to be you without limits.
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. We are checking in with our Dr. Bridget for this week's Reclaim Your Wellness as we talk about emotional benefits of friendships and how it differs between black and whites. And this is interesting because here's why, folks. If you did not know, and Dr. Bridget can attest to it, there actually is an epidemic here in this country, an epidemic of loneliness. This is a high priority public health crisis in this country right now as we speak, that there are more lonely, there's a greater sense of loneliness that Americans are experiencing. It's not just due to technology. Some people say that social media and technology has certainly played its part in it. But there are some other things there too as well, like that many of us, we don't quite know how to connect or disconnect or to build fruitful friendships and relationships with one another. And I recently came to this point of thinking, Doc, where I was like, does anybody know how to be friends anymore? Do we know what it means to be a friend? Because I don't care if you're in the dating space or if you're just looking for a friend, if you meet somebody that's interested in being a part of your world, they can drop in like an atomic bomb and just blow up your whole life. Right. And there is like understanding boundaries, understanding how to just slowly integrate yourself and welcome other people into your space. And I feel like the older you get, the more disconnected you become. And next thing you know, you're in a room of people and you're not talking to anyone. You're not engaging anyone. People that look like you, same age as you, might be in the same profession as you, and you still can't connect. And I think sometimes, Doc, as we go to this University of Michigan study and looking at this, we write those opportunities to connect with people, and we say, "Oh, that's not important. That's not my group." But not understanding that maybe the way we're feeling, the way we wake up in the morning, or how we see the world, it's not a rich, fulfilling experience because we're not making new friends. We're not establishing new connections. Am I taking this too deep, Doc?
No, as we get older, we become more introverted, meaning we're more aware of where our energy is spent. And some people get their energy from interactions and talking and being around others, and children are naturally like this. They get the energy from being amongst each other, which is how they learn and grow into adults. Yeah. But as we get older, we're like, do I want to spend my energy talking to, Karen over there for?
But don't you have to
talk to who?
Look, like relationships take require effort and energy.
Yes.
They require work.
Yes.
So if you think that a friendship is going to crop up without you making an effort, like that's unrealistic.
But I mean, you might say I'm lonely, but you're not so lonely and proactive to go and seek friends is the problem.
That's exactly it.
It's a problem that doesn't have a solution, and therefore how much of it isn't actually a problem, right? So it's people will talk about it, but do they do anything about it is the question. The people that want to do something about it, they do something about it. There's meetup.com, which has been creating experiences for people forever. Okay. And I have told people, every time I've met new patients, if they're new to the city, go to meetup.com, find an experience that you like. You're a vegetarian, you like movies.
Yep.
There's an experience for you there, right? Do that. But simply as we get older, we have less and less desire to spend our energy in that way. We tend to be busier, our focus will be on our kids, it might be a significant other, and our energy I'm spent at the end of the day. You know what I mean?
Oh, no doubt.
And so
that's how I knew that we were getting old. I'm getting older.
Yeah, you said you didn't say we. You said, okay. I just want to make sure that.
No, I didn't say we. I said that's how him, me.
And,
that's what I meant. That's what I meant. That's how I knew. Like I'm getting older because at the end of the day. All right, let me go to the crew. We only got a couple of moments left.
All right.
Because a lot of them are saying it. Tiana, thank you for checking in, my sister. You said I keep my friends' circle small.
Yes.
I get you. And maybe we should have some metrics, right? For some metrics on what constitutes a friend. Because some of us, we're yearning for friends. So you might meet me today, and then tomorrow you'll be like, oh, that's bestie.
The last time that I brought in a new friend that grew quickly, I had a stalker. So I am.
Oh, see that will just throw off everything.
I'm good.
I'm sorry to hear that.
I'm good.
Yeah, I hear you. Mingley Natasha Surge, you said I don't have a circle. Okay. All right. Yeah, I get it. Lori Parks, thank you so much for posting that, Ming. Lori, you said females have always had the ability to network. That's how we find out what's going on, not necessary to bring them in as friends, but just networking. Mm-hmm. And let me just say, and I get it. I'm not against networking, but I don't want to always network because that sounds too much like work to me. That's why it has the term work in it, right?
No, I totally agree. It's funny, even with the book where we have now, I think 59 authors, I've always been very clear with all of these authors, we're not a networking group, we're a community. We're not seeing what everyone can get from somebody else. We're there to support each other in whichever way we can. And I made a point of that because there is so much isolation. And there was this opportunity with the book series to bring people together with common experiences. There are opportunities that people can get involved in that shouldn't, if it feels like work, then it probably isn't really for you on a social level. Do you know what I mean?
Social level.
Yeah.
I don't know if I would agree with that, Doc.
If it feels like work, I don't want to do it.
But see, suppose that's because you've been conditioned to believe that building relationships don't require effort.
I didn't say effort. I said if it feels like work. If it feels like I have to, it is difficult, it is stressful, it is overwhelming. If it feels like I'm pushing myself, if I have to push, I should want to go. I mean, I realize I might be reluctant, but I should want to go to whatever event. I should want to participate with these people because they have great energy. But if it feels like I got to go because they pay me, if it feels like,
yeah, I got you. Now I get that part. Francesca X, you got a little saying, everybody that's skin and grin ain't your friend.
Mm-hmm.
Woo, y'all turn. Y'all cold-hearted. Boogie Barnes, you said making new friends are low on the priority list for the Black man. If you enjoy working with your people, developing means of being impactful and motivational, we're all enjoying ourselves now.
This is true. Sometimes listen, my daughter is 19 and she said to me the other day, I love being by myself. I have the best conversations. I enjoy my time. I can go where I want. I don't have to negotiate. I was like, this woman will never get married. She knows way too. Way too.
Well,
But
no,
literally,
sorry. We got to come, and I'm glad you brought that up, Doc. I'm glad. Listen, this woman will never get married. But I'm glad you brought that up, because in our culture, do you think that we glorify singleness, being alone? Do you think that's a part of our culture? And if you do believe that, how do we disrupt that to glorify the fact that, you know what, to get through this thing called life, and I don't understand how people say, I'm good by myself. Life will, and we're not talking about intimate relationships. We're talking about friendships. We're talking about somebody that you can call on and they could be there for you. And friendships, right? I can't see myself going through this great experience of life and not having one friend, one person, maybe two or three people that you can kind of go to chill with and just be yourself around. And it's like, huh? Because that seems like it's counterintuitive to the essence of life, where life is about growing, evolving, connecting, and building. It just seems a little counterintuitive. And I feel like part of that is because of our culture. What's your take, John?
So I don't think we glorify being single at all. I feel like despite the fact that more and more people are choosing or are single, it is still considered you have some sort of leprosy if you choose to be single. Okay.
Right.
I don't think it's glorified by any means. I do think people experience enough trauma and enough stress that pursuing relationships becomes less and less important. But I feel we are relational beings, and we are meant to have experiences and community. And if you are not finding your experiences with people of your choosing, get back to your roots and find family that is somebody up in your family is worth hanging out with, and find the older people, because when they're gone, you'll never get those stories back. You'll never know all that information that they hold within. Spend time with your family.
Absolutely. Cindy D, my sister, you said being alone is not being lonely. A few close friends is all you need. Being single is being happy with yourself. I agree.
100%.
I agree with that differentiation. Coretta, my sister, you said you can count real friends on one hand and maybe 2 or 3 fingers if you're lucky.
That's right. I agree.
I agree. Absolutely. Let me see, who else do we hear? So many of you are checking in on this. Let me see very quickly before we take. Sean Ryan, you said me and my true friends can't even sit or really talk together on the bus together because we get too loud and obnoxious that the bus driver gets mad at us. You one of them types.
Enjoy yourself. Enjoy yourself.
And Robert Jones, Robert, you said as Black men get older, we are much wiser regarding our friendships. That is true.
I do think so.
Very, very true. So, Doc, as we wrap up, and thank y'all, crew, for posting these comments. As we wrap up, what would you say about this?
That I'm going to miss you, Farajii. What? You can't let me get out of here without saying that you have been the most generous, incredible person to work with. And in this business, people are not generous with their time or their knowledge, and you have been amazing. I'll be over for dinner.
I'm not ready for this, y'all. I'm ready for this. Like, if y'all knew like how emotional this has been, and I'm not saying like it is what it is, but I'm not ready for this, y'all.
No, I will miss you horribly, and I will bother you constantly. So
I love that. I'll miss you horribly, but I will bother you constantly. I love it. First and foremost, hey y'all, really offline, me and Dr. Bridget are actually friends. We talk about a lot of stuff together. So I appreciate her friendship, but more importantly, I think Dr. Bridget is fantastic for what we do here at Black Star Network. And it has been a real pleasure and a great honor and privilege, Doc, to have you on. And I mean, you have been such a trooper in working through all of the ups and downs of putting on a live show, but more importantly, your medical analysis. And I told you this, very few people, I haven't come across them personally, but to be in the space that you're in an intersection that is one of one. Culture, medicine, you talk about cannabis, you're talking about all this stuff, and you're a Black woman. So anytime I have the opportunity to share space and to share time with you, I will always do so, because I think you bring a lot to the conversation, and more importantly to the culture. So I thank you so much for that.
Absolutely.
I appreciate Thank you. All right, folks. Doc, Bridget, let's talk about where people can find you at.
So I have a YouTube network called Dr. Bridget's Wellness Reclaimed. And so we continue to do shows on there. So definitely look for me there. But you can always keep up with me on Instagram, Dr. Bridget MD. That's where you'll find wherever I'm going next. So please stay in touch with me and
Absolutely.
Follow me there, because you guys, the crew has been amazing as well. And I appreciate you all.
My crew, Chris, Maddie, Keenan, and Lisa.
Absolutely.
Awesome group of people. Folks, make sure y'all follow Dr. Bridget. She's always been phenomenal here on The Culture, and we have been so thankful to her for her time and her what she brings. Make sure y'all follow her, y'all like her on social media. Make sure that you tune into her shows, any podcasts, any type of announcements she's making. I follow her, and she's just doing a lot for the culture. So Dr. Bridget, thank you once again for the final segment. That's the last segment of Reclaim Your Wellness today. I truly appreciate you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Farajii.
You're welcome. Thank you. All right, folks, that's going to do it for me. I thank each and every one of you. Thank you for your patience as we weren't working out these tech kinks. And God willing, we'll be back on track for tomorrow's show. But I thank each and every one of you. Make sure y'all go to our website today at blackstarnetwork.com. Download the app for free. Follow us on social media. And we ask for your continued support. All right. Also, follow me. If you haven't had a chance, check me out on The Real Farajii on Instagram and at Farajii on X. And I would love to connect with you and continue to build community with you. And big shout out to everybody that has come on so far. And the rest of the week, you're going to have phenomenal folks check it in and all of the good stuff. Still having conversations, but some folks say, look, I got to get on air to just say thank you, Farajii. So, I can't say no to that. And I truly appreciate y'all. Thank y'all so much for tuning in. Stay tuned. Up next is RMU, Roland Martin Unfiltered. So stick around for that. As always, never be afraid to challenge what's wrong. Stand for what's right while being yourself in the process. God willing, we'll talk tomorrow for another exciting edition of The Culture right here on the Black Star Network. Peace.